And so, Ororo Munroe, the 6-year-old would-be princess and rightful ruler of the Hidden Kingdom, was an orphan and homeless. It was only weeks ago that her mother, a Kenyan princess named Adair, and her father, an American photojournalist, were killed when a warplane crashed into their home. Ororo managed to escape the wreckage with only her mother's powerful ancestral ruby gem and her tattered clothes. And although it had been weeks ago, she remembers her parents' voices in all the stories her mother would tell her about their kingdom hidden in Kenya. But Ororo cannot remember her mother ever telling her how to find it. So, with no way home, no way to Kenya, and no way to America, Ororo wanders the back alleys and gutters of Cairo, Egypt, begging for food to survive. Lost, hungry, afraid, but determined to survive. She is eventually found by a particular group of children. She learns that they too are orphans. They tell Ororo that the people of Cairo call them street urchins. The people say that these urchins are God-forsaken and unwanted, but in reality, they are only children, some abandoned by their parents, others abused in unimaginable and unforgivable ways. The people would say that they are loved by no one, but the people of Cairo would be wrong, for these children did belong to someone, and his name was Achmed el Gibar. Achmed el Gibar was the greatest thief in all of Cairo, and considered himself the head of the Egyptian underworld. There was nothing that happened in Egypt without Achmed's knowledge, and Achmed's knowledge, as well as his skills, were always for sale at the right price. And although in his 70s, the master thief genuinely cared for his urchins, he gave them a home and trained them as thieves, and the children would bring Achmed treasures and, most importantly, information from all over Egypt. The children bring Ororo to their master. He takes her in, and she too becomes a street urchin, and Ororo soon finds family in the group. Within a year, Ororo is trained to be his finest beggar and pickpocket, but when she turns 7, Ororo decides that she is ready for more. He trains her harder and harder in the arts of lockpicking both day and night, until at the age of 8 years old, Ororo can open any lock under any condition in record time. Ororo, El Gibar's favorite and star pupil, never fails him, and there is not a lock or pocket that she cannot pick. Confident in her skills, one day Ororo targets a young American vacationing in Cairo. He is shopping and preoccupied haggling with a street trader when Ororo steals his wallet. She is unaware, however, that this young man is Charles Francis Xavier, a telepath whose own psychic powers were still manifesting. The sound of Ororo's giggle in his mind alerts him to her scheme, and he gives chase. Ororo almost loses him, forcing Xavier to use his mental powers to keep track of her, which soon proves to be harder than he had anticipated. There was more to this girl than met the eye, he thought. On a deserted side street, Xavier stops her with a gentle force bolt. As he retrieves his wallet, in her mind, he sees her latent powers. As he peers deeper, Xavier himself is smashed down by a psychic bolt that is so vicious it breaks his link with Ororo, and she escapes. His assailant is none other than the ruler of the Thieves' Quarter, Amol Farouk, also known as the Shadow King. Farouk planned to dominate the world, and he wanted Xavier to join him. With their combined raw psychic power, they could rule the galaxy. When Xavier refuses, the Shadow King attacks him on the astral plane. Xavier, although this is his first experience with another psychic mutant and a novice at battling on the astral plane, manages to defeat Farouk by blasting pure psionic energy straight into the core of his mind. The battle inspires Xavier to return to America and form the X-Men. By the time Ororo is 9, she lives to steal and steals to live. Always anxious to please Achmed, Ororo sought new challenges for herself, sometimes even against Achmed's wishes. In a palace just outside Casimir, near Cairo, Ororo stalks a forbidden artifact, a glowing, ancient ruby, much larger than her family's ancestral ruby gem. The glowing ruby reminded her of her mother, Princess Nader, and Ororo had to have the prize for herself. Getting in and attaining the ruby is easy, but as she soundly ascends her rope to the ceiling escape, a stark white glow suddenly emanates from the empty gem case. At first, Ororo thinks that it is the palace's alarms, but then lightning erupts from the floor, cutting through and nearly incinerating the guards. Horrified by the slaughter, Ororo flees with her treasure clutched in her hands, and from a distance, she watches as the palace and the hillside it sat upon were obliterated in blinding white light. And curiously, just as the light faded, so did the glow of the gem. The following morning, when she showed the gem to Achmed, he admonished her harshly. He too had heard of the rumors that the ruby was in a town nearby, and he strictly forbade Ororo from pursuing it. He tells her that he would keep the ruby, this heart of eternal darkness, the heart of the immortal conjurer, until Ororo is old enough to understand what she had done that day.